Hello, this is Arnold Mangioli for Grateful, Ready, Open, Willing. Welcome. I'm a casting director. That's what I do by profession. I'm a Broadway casting director, and as I understand it, based on the Casting Society of America statistics, currently there are only some 700 casting directors in the entire world. The world's population is 7.6 billion. Therefore, only one out of every 10,857,142.8571 people is a casting director at all. So the chances are less than 1 in 10 million that we could be having this communication. How awesome. Welcome. This is not a new project for me. It's something I've been working on for about 7 or 8 years now. We are, as I record this video, in the coronavirus pandemic. And I just want to acknowledge that because there are many great losses that we have experienced in the Broadway community, as well as what people are going through is really tough. I mean, there are frontline workers, essential workers who are in the midst of this, and that cannot be easy for them or for their families. We have in the theater community, in the Broadway community, we have lost Terrence McNally, Mark Blum, Wynn Handman, Manu Dibango, Hilary Heath, Adam Schlesinger, John Prine, and Nick Cordero is doing better, thank God. But we are dealing with something very real and something of fairly epic, tragic proportions. So I want to acknowledge that, and none of what we're doing here is in any way meant to disrespect anyone or their feelings or the gravity of what some of you may be going through. For others of us, it's an inconvenience. It's difficult to stay home and be in quarantine and shelter in place, but we are doing our part, and it is really a wide spectrum of how people are being affected by this and understanding it. So I want to welcome you here, recognizing that people are coming from very different places on this and very different levels of experience in terms of what you may be going through at the given moment. So allowing that this video may be watched later in time, or perhaps when we've come through all of that, that's when it's being recorded. And part of the reason I bring that up is also to say that that was not the impetus to launch this project. This is a project that, for me, as I say, it started 7 or 8 years ago. I had gotten very ill. I went into kidney failure, and I was at 10% kidney function, which is, I'm told, what happens right before you die. And I knew I was not feeling well. So I was in the midst of auditions on a major new Broadway musical project, and I showed up to auditions. I did get to the doctor because I was feeling terrible enough that I said, I think something's wrong. And he did a bunch of tests, and the next day I went to my auditions in the morning, and the assistant director, who's a friend, looked at me and said, you don't look so good. And I said, yeah, I don't feel so good. And he said, no, I mean, your skin is green. It's turning gray. Your skin's more gray now. Your skin is turning blue. Should you be here? And I said, probably not, but I'm here and the actors are waiting, so let's begin. So we started the auditions, and then in the middle of that audition day, I got a call from my doctor who said, as soon as you get this message, don't answer the call, just come here immediately, come to my office. And from that, I went into the hospital, and thanks God, I'm still here. But from that experience, as can sometimes happen for people, when you go through an experience like that, you start to look at your life and you think, okay, what have I learned? What do I know? What am I still hoping to learn? What am I still hoping to do? And are those things connected in some way? And for me, they very much are, because I have had such unique experiences from my vantage point on my side of the audition table, watching actors for decades now. And I've learned many things about what works, many things about what doesn't work. And I thought it would be good to share them. As I mentioned in the little trailer video that we had for this, the top of the list for me are gratitude, readiness, openness, and willingness. Those are like the biggest, most important things I see for what I believe is this new paradigm that we're heading to in the world. How we're going to a place now of basically the world reinventing itself toward something better. And these would be the qualities, I think. It's not even so much about cultivating them, because I think we all have them. I think it's about bringing awareness to them in a way that can help us move forward in a really positive direction and a really positive light, to be ready for the world we wish to create for ourselves next. So I want to say all of that just to let you know what we're doing. Many of us are doing very well. We have our homes. We have a roof over our head. We have enough food. We have our health. We have the ability to follow protocols, masks, gloves, social distancing, 6 feet apart, all of the things being required of us. Grow, Grateful, Ready, Open, Willing, as I initially conceived it, was much more of an enterprise, and I hope it will grow to that. Not just this YouTube channel, but we have a group on Facebook. We have a website, gratefulreadyopenwilling.com, which is under construction, but almost there. We have a podcast in the works. I have a book that's about a little more than half written right now. It's a book about auditioning and about these qualities and working them into your life and into your audition life, as well as your personal life that you're living. Ongoing coaching services. I've worked as a life coach and have trained as a life coach in 3 different schools of study, and I have been working as a life coach for a good number of years now, and I have a good number of clients, both theater people and actors and artists of all kinds, as well as people from all walks of life. And I love coaching. I love the work I do there. Teaching. I've been a teacher at NYU for 20 years now, and bringing all of these things together into this form feels like a way to be able to get it to you. So that's what we're doing here. And while it wasn't, the impetus for this was not the stay at home during the coronavirus pandemic, what that did allow me is the time to focus on this project, because right now Broadway is shut down as I record this. We are all paused on our work. And it seemed a really good time to put my energies here and to try to bring this into fruition. So that's what I have done. I am somewhat inspired by an interview I saw with Louise Hay, where she talked about how years ago she had no intention of opening a publishing house. But in fact, she had this from her life experience. She had figured out these affirmations and these tools for positive thinking and for healing that people could utilize. And she wanted to get them to the people. She wanted to help people with these things she had learned and discovered. And the only thing she could figure out to do would be to type them all out, which she did on a typewriter, and bring them to a local copy center and have 5,000 copies made and start giving them away. So these YouTube videos are my version of going to a copy center and making 5,000 copies, just to give you some of what I've learned and some of what my experience is and some of what I know. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm also inspired by SARC, Susan Ariel Rainbow Kennedy. I have been working with her in Succulent Wild World and various incarnations of her training and teaching and coaching workshops and writing workshops over probably about the same amount of time, the last 7 or 8 years. And Susan and her various groups over time and various guests have given me a tremendous amount of support on bringing this into fruition. So I want to acknowledge Susan Ariel Rainbow Kennedy. Make your creative dreams real. That's what she's about. So check her out. Check out her things. She's been a great inspiration to me. So many people have been choosing their favorite. You know, we started a Facebook group, Grateful, Ready, Open, Willing. And one of the questions for entrance into that group is, which is your favorite of these attributes and why? And I sort of imagined that lots of people would pick gratitude because that's a popular one. You know, that's a phrase that we hear. That's an Instagram hashtag. You know, when you look for hashtags for these qualities, there's nothing comes up for like readiness or openness or willingness. Gratitude comes up, at least at the moment. And I don't think these are things that are being popularly talked about. They're probably not being talked about nearly enough. And I was fascinated to see when people joined the Facebook group and talked about it, how they were pretty evenly divided among the four. Really, 25% of people were gratitude is my favorite. I start from gratitude. I keep a gratitude list. I keep a gratitude journal. I make my gratitude list every morning. That's what launches me into the day and makes me able to do everything. For some people, it was about readiness, and readiness is what got me here. And I'm ready to try something new, and I'm ready to expand myself, and I'm ready to make my mark on the world, and I'm ready to embrace who I am. And nothing can happen without that. Other people said openness is the most important one, because if you don't start with openness, how can you get to any of the others? And again, about a quarter of the people said willingness is the most important attribute, and my absolute favorite, because from a place of willingness, I can get to all the others. So it was really surprising to me in a wonderful way that there was so much enthusiasm for every aspect of this. It wasn't just, well, this one I understand and I have to think about those others. And we will be doing some upcoming videos on each of these. We will be having a video coming up on gratitude, and then one on readiness, and then one on openness, and one on willingness, to sort of explore those more in depth, which I think is very well worth doing, and talking about what they mean to us, what they mean to you, maybe introducing some new ideas, waking up some thoughts that maybe have been dormant. So many amazing things that I've seen lately. The Broadway Recovery Project is a remarkable thing. Governor Cuomo's office called Jeff Whiting at the Open Jar Studios and said, you have a space, you're a theater organization, you know designers, maybe we could get some equipment into your space and you can start making masks and gowns and PPE for the frontline workers. And it happened. And they're doing it. And volunteers from the Broadway community and elsewhere go there every day and sew and make masks and make hospital gowns and cut patterns and figure that out, and are providing hospitals with tremendous amounts of PPE. And that's extraordinary. The personal protective equipment is what I'm talking about. And it's being made by people in the theater community. And they have volunteers who are loading up those boxes and cartons and loading those onto trucks and getting them to the hospitals every single day. What a remarkable and inspiring and extraordinary outreach of our community that is. It's very deeply affecting to me. The Broadway shutdown, Broadway is shut down. As I'm recording this, it's now through September 6th, and we don't know how much longer. That is an extraordinary thing. Not something that I think has happened in my lifetime, but we cannot be stopped. There are so many video presentations, and there was a benefit that Rosie O'Donnell hosted right away in the first week after the shutdown. There was a benefit to raise money for the Actors Fund, where all of our Broadway stars were video cammed in from their homes with their spouses, with their children, in their home environment, with their guitars, with their pianos, singing a cappella, just speaking a little bit about how the Actors Fund has helped them, and creating an online benefit. We've seen several of those. Red Bull Theater is streaming their shows ongoing. Seth Rudetsky is hosting Stars in the House, and I think that's pretty much every day. The Shaw Project, Gingold Theatrical Project, GTG, Project Shaw, they are streaming so many of Shaw's plays. The Public Theater has been streaming the Apple plays, and there's just been so much of an outpouring of what we do and how we do it, and a sharing of that in a way that is so inspiring and so powerful, what we're capable of, that it's not that we are limited to a Broadway stage and that environment. It's our preferred environment, or certainly has been, but we tell stories. We're telling stories. We're finding new ways to tell stories. We will again in our theaters, just as we have always known it. But for now, what do we want of this time? We want to do what we do. We want to tell stories. We want to help people to feel things. We want to awaken people, enlighten people, bring people to an experience of life beyond the parameters of that in which they live. Sure. What do we want with this time for ourselves? Time is a gift. Time is always a gift. This time in particular is a tremendous gift. Penny Arcade, the performance artist, another phenomenal woman whom I adore, She spoke to my NYU class recently, and she said, artists don't need money, artists need time. Well, we have time right now, many of us. What do you want to make happen? What's stopping you? How? How are you going to do it? My partner always reminds me the answer to how is yes. The answer to how is yes. Are we open to receiving this great gift? COVID-19 has arrived. Our great teacher. Class is in session. I did a blog post about that very recently. My blog, Live the Questions Now, at livethequestionsnow.com. It's from the Rilke quote, Live the Questions Now. You can take a look there. It's a lot of positive thinking, positive outreach, positive perspective. It's a lot about gratitude. I'll just be upfront. It's also the occasional political rant, because sometimes with what goes on politically, I lose my mind a little bit. And I need to rant about it. And I do that occasionally, not all the time, but occasionally on my blog. So you will find that there. If those posts might offend you, then feel free to steer clear of those posts and read the other ones. There's recipes on there for cookies and really good stuff. I love to cook. It's one of the things I enjoy. One of so many gifts of life I enjoy. I think it would be good to just share together in a moment of silence for those who are suffering in this pandemic, for anyone you might know or know of who might be suffering in any way in their experiences, what's going on, whether it's in this COVID-19 pandemic that's going on as I record this, or whatever's going on when you're watching it, or anyone that you know who could use your help and a little bit of good energy sent their way. So I'm going to take a moment and ask you to join me in a moment of silence so that we can think on them and send them some good energy. And it's going to be a nice hunky moment. I can't stand when people say we're going to have a moment of silence and then it's like 1 second and they're like, okay, done. And I think I didn't even get a chance to get into my heart. So I'm done talking. Let's have a moment of silence for those who are suffering, who we'd like to send, to whom we'd like to send some good energy. Yeah, that felt good. Sometimes it just feels good to bring your energy to others, to share in the community, energy-wise. Sometimes we don't need to be physically in a theater together to have that experience. There have been studies where in the theater, people's heart rates have been monitored, and at some point in the play, the audience's heart rate all becomes the same. Everyone in the audience is beating as one heart from the communal experience, which I think is so beautiful and says so much about the value of theater and what we do. So I believe that's possible even amongst us, in a virtual situation like this. Our energies can combine and reach one another. In closing, I want to share with you that we had a wonderful experience a few weeks ago. My partner and I, we have a friend who has these two wonderful little girls. One's maybe 5 or 6, and one's maybe 8. And they were concerned about us because they know we live in New York, and they wanted to know that we were okay. So their mom contacted us and asked if we could have a Zoom date, a Zoom play date on a Saturday afternoon, and we did. And it was really wonderful. At one point in the conversation, we said to the little girl, the little 5-year-old, we said, Lila, how are you doing in all of this? And she jumped on the camera screen and smiled and said, I am living my best life. she was pretty happy about the quarantine and being home and being with her sister and her mom and her dad. It was really kind of wonderful. So I urge all of us to live our best life like that 5-year-old child and really enjoy the time, the gift of this time, and what is before us and what is to do, because this is our life. This time that we have here, this is the life we have, and we're very lucky and very blessed to have it. So thank you for sharing some of your time with me, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video. This is Arnold Mangioli for Grateful, Ready, Open, Willing.